Hi, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Chrisanne Hayes, and I am a Point Park alum. I am also the marketing consultant for Point Park University's Pittsburgh Playhouse and an entrepreneur. So I am so thrilled to have these two guests with us today. Welcome to Charles Santos and Margaret Selby. How are you today?
Great.
We're good.
Spring.
Excellent. So glad that you are with us. And I want to say welcome to all of you joining us out in virtual internet land through Zoom. We're happy that you're here and are excited to be here to talk and have a rich discussion and to answer any of your questions. This is such a great opportunity. So for today, we will begin by asking our guests to briefly introduce themselves and tell us about their individual career journeys, which are truly fascinating. Following this, we invite you, our audience, to ask questions of our special guests. So Margaret, we will go ahead and begin with you. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. I'm an agent, and I started an agency. Well, I started an agency over at Columbia Artist Management and then moved it out to my own agency 5 years ago called Selby Artist Management. And we handle basically dance companies, and a lot of them, I think you might know Parsons Dance. I know who's performed out at Point Park, Complexions, Dorrance Dance, Body Traffic, a lot of companies. So I didn't start off doing this. Hold on a second. I'm sorry. I'm trying to, my new phone. I don't know how to deal with it. Sorry. I started off, well, I was a music major in college and I danced my whole career. And when I got out of college, I got a job at Columbia Artist Management, and I was handling touring of symphonies and opera singers and everything but dance. After 3.5 years there, I decided I wanted to do something a little different, and I got into television, worked my way up, and ended up at Dance in America. And I made films with Mark Morris, New York City Ballet, Twyla Tharp, Baryshnikov, Ulysses Dove, Garth Fagan, a bunch of people. And I did a documentary called Everybody Dance Now, which had the Rocksteady crew and Willie Ninja and others, and that show won a Peabody Award. And then Lincoln Center Festival came over to me and said, "We love that film you made. Can you make that into a stage show?" So they gave me $50,000, and with the Rocksteady crew guys and another group, they each got half of it to make half of a show. And then from making that show, we did the first off-Broadway hip hop show called Jam on the Groove. Calvin Klein gave us $500,000. We went around the world for 3 years. Then Columbia Artists invited me back to make a film on the animator Chuck Jones, who did all the Looney Tunes. And then I started my dance business there and started signing things. And then 5 years ago, after the owner had passed away, I knew it was time to leave, and I started my own agency. So that's where I am today. Let's see. Are you going to ask me these, or should I just go through the list of 10?
Well, what we're going to do, Margaret, and thank you for that introduction. What a fascinating path that you've taken along your career, and we'll definitely want to dive into that. So we're actually going to move over to Charles. And Charles, we are excited to learn more about you and what your career path has looked like.
I actually started as a singer and then I danced in college, and then I'm 60 now, so just to put this in perspective, in the 80s, in my 20s, I danced for a company named Sure Dance Company. It was a guy who came from Batsheva, who moved to Texas. Was with him for 9 years, and then in 1992, in the heart of the AIDS pandemic, I built a festival in Austin because there was a lot of dance. And it was a huge success. And from the first year to the second year, went from a 1-day to a 4-day event with a black tie dinner. And then I started inviting, companies from around the country. And when the festival expanded, and I was 32, I decided it was something had to go. It was time. And I always said I would stop while I could still do everything. So we were in Paris at this festival performing, and then that was it for me. And I went to the other side of the curtain. My day job, I was a computer programmer. I wrote a program. I used to teach software and do some programming. I paid attention while I was in the dance company. So I used to handle all the logistics of the company, the traveling and all that. The short version, I went to New York in '94, sort of put it out there that I thought I wanted to be a professional fundraiser. It's the last thing I want to do, but it's the thing that we all do. And I got hired as the development director for a really cool orchestra called EOS Orchestra. They had lots of money and were doing super cool projects. And I became the managing director a month later. And so, for 2.5 years, and I'm still producing my Texas event. I produced all our concerts, and we did books and CDs and whatnot. But we were expanding, and I said, I think I enjoyed it, but I couldn't participate artistically because that's not my wheelhouse, contemporary classical music. So we were expanding, and I said, I've been offered to be the producing director at Dancers Responding to AIDS at Broadway Cares, Equity Fights AIDS, a giant company. And went over there. And the great thing about working at Broadway Cares or DRA is that you have access to everybody. I want to do an event with Baryshnikov. Great, here's his phone number. I want to do something with Bibi Newworth. Here's her phone number. So you could think big. And I just sort of helped the organization, DRA, go from doing small things in New York to, if we're going to do a competition, let's go nationwide. It's just a plane ticket. And so we did a lot of that. And I was there for about 2.5 years. And then I got offered the associate producer, managing director of the Lower Manhattan Cultural Council at the World Trade Center. And I was there producing those concerts. And it was great because we were a re-granting institution for the state. So we gave away money. We gave residencies to build work on our studios on the 92nd floor. And we produced these, all the top companies on the big stages in between the two towers. And I should say, Margaret and I met, I don't really know when we met, but I think it's in the late 80s. When were you at WNET?
Since 1988.
So and my brother was at WNET. So we've known each other a very long time.
Yes.
But anyway, 4 days before 9/11, I announced that I had accepted the position to be executive director of Titus in Dallas. And then, of course, everything happened. And so I ended up leaving New York a month early. I was going to start November 1 and use October to transition a new managing director producer. Everything happened. I obviously got out, and I helped do the fireman's benefit that we did at the Joyce Theater. And then I moved to Texas. We finished it on a Saturday. I was on a plane on Sunday, and I started on Monday. It was a little surreal. And Titus is a presentership. So for 32 years, we were dance and music. Half our season was dance, half was music. About 11 years ago, the AT&T Performing Arts Center was completed. It's built, they built all the buildings, the Winspear Opera House, the Wiley Theater, and then the Moody Theater and our outdoor theater. And I went into, it's a longer, complicated story, but I went into a partnership, what we call a co-producing relationship. Separate companies, but we share my season. And I moved into the Opera House as our home theater. And I'm a very big believer in curation. There has to be a reason to present an artist, a play, something other than making money. You have to stand for something. So as they were trying to present music and we were doing music, I felt like we're confusing the audience. So I'm now one of the probably, 5 or 6 dance only presenters left in the country. And so we do 10 companies a year, and we've been doing that now for about 9 years. And that's the short version. So we're all good. Now we're just surviving, the reopening and a year, really a year and a half of COVID, and what that means to a business. So that's where we are.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Charles. Wow. You both have had such an interesting ride and have done a lot of pivoting through each of your careers. And it sounds like, based on how you described your career path, you always were forward thinking and taking experience and taking advantage of opportunities that came your way. Can you talk about the importance of having and how to have a robust career in the arts? And what are some of the key fundamentals that you've learned along your respective paths?
Well, I'll say, I guess I'll start. I would say pay attention. There's a lot of debate about not having a plan B, and I totally get that decision as a young dancer, not having a plan B so that you commit everything about your being to the resource. I was not raised that way. I always had a plan B. I knew that my career would end.
Mm-hmm.
So I always paid attention. I paid attention to how the deals were made and how to logistically manage a tour, how to, I taught myself software skills to, to do my things. And you have to network. You're really always working. You don't know when you're going to meet someone that's going to be, like Margaret and I met way before I was in the business on this side of the curtain. And we have become lifelong friends now and very important business partners. I don't think there's been a year that we've not done a deal. Since in the 20 years I've been in Dallas. But you have to pay attention. It is all about relationships, and no one owes you anything. This is something that a lot of emerging talent, they emerge from college. I'm here, and no one owes you. You have to work for that relationship. If you want donors, you need to nurture that relationship. And you've just got to pay. I don't know. You have to be bold and pay attention. Margaret, what do you think?
I think it's really important for when you get out of college, the most important thing, if you want to be a dancer, or you want to be a choreographer, is to get into a professional company. Do not try to start your own company. It's a hellacious thing, and you're not ready. You don't even understand what that means. You might have a fantasy feeling of what it means, but you're lucky. You're at Point Park, and they have so many good relationships with so many choreographers and dance companies. You really should strive. You don't have to, it doesn't have to be your end all company that you have to stay with forever, but you need a year or two in a company. You really need that. And I am finding there are too many frustrated dancers that come out of school and they want to start a company, and when it doesn't work, they get very frustrated. So you have to understand what it means to tour or present yourself. You got to learn from somebody else while they're paying you. It's kind of almost like your graduate degree. And one of my favorite bits of advice is stay at the bottom as long as you can, because then you can learn from others' mistakes. And you do have to network like crazy, but when you're part of a company, you can't, network with the people in the company. You'll meet people along the way. I don't think you can overdo it, but you just have to make relationships with everyone. Be on time, do what you're supposed to do, be a good company member, be a good partner, let them count on you. And, then you're going to get all these references from people when you decide you don't want to do, you want to move on. So it is all relationship based, and there's a lot to learn. And the one thing that you have a big advantage over when I went to school, because right now, all these other things that you want to learn about, and you really need to learn about marketing, digital, Instagram, how that all works. And by the way, be careful what you put up, because it can come back to haunt you. Please, I beg of you. But you can learn more about marketing, digital, filmmaking. You can learn about, if you learn how to fundraise, you will always have a job. Because if you want to make something as an artist, you have to raise money, because none of this makes really financial sense. You have to know how to raise money. So if you can volunteer, and help a development person, and just, even if you're sticking the letters in the envelopes for asking for a donation, just make some relationships. And marketing and development and education. If you can help your local theater with education outreach, be a teaching artist, a local teaching artist, do it in the summer. These all those skills and relationships are going to round out your resume. And then when you decide you want to do something that's, if you want to try to have your own company. Now, for the choreographers, my advice is this: have other people pay for you to choreograph on their dancers. You don't want to have to pay those salaries. You don't want to rent the theater. You don't want to pay for the tech. There's competitions that you can go in and send your videos, and you can get some other people to pay to make it happen. And when you do get that opportunity, you usually make a license for the work where you give it to them for 3 years exclusively, but it might be up to 5 or 6 years, but 3 years are exclusive. And when the exclusive years are up, you can take that work and put it on your own company, and it's already created. So you don't have to spend as much time as it is making something up. So there's a lot of ways to do it, but you've been given great tools from Point Park. Now you got to figure out what you're going to do with these tools.
It's a good point. Ron Brown's Grace was built on Ailey, and then he didn't have it on his company for a long time until the license ran out, and they both have it, but it's become a signature piece for Ron in his own company. You're right with that. And the other thing I would say to a lot of dancers is that you have to define for yourself what success is. Success can be many different things. You can have a super rich and successful and happy life in regional dance companies, at regional theaters. Going to New York or to the West Coast or wherever, it can be great, but it is also brutal. And New York can be wonderful. I love my time there, but you give up a lot to live there, but you gain a lot. But you can have a really rich life. Like, I wouldn't have traded my years in Austin for anything. They were great years. I learned a lot. I had a lot of fun. We got lots of funding because we weren't in New York. And it was, so you have to define for yourself what success is and realize that there's a lot of ways to achieve it.
Rents are down in New York. You can come.
Yeah.
Audition for those companies. Come on, guys.
Thank you so much. And what amazingly valuable pieces of advice. So how has the last year and a half changed the industry? What barriers and challenges have you and the artists face in working through COVID-19 and starting to hopefully reemerge from COVID-19?
Who wants that one?
Well, I'll go short. You've got much more detail on this. This has been a year, a time for problem solvers. I think one of the biggest challenges, we are both preparing our documents for the SVOG grant that opens on the 8th. A ton of work. We're all managing salaries. We're all managing budgets. We're all doing, I've been canceling and rescheduling artists since early 2020. Ailey was the first really big one right before we shut down, but I had already canceled two shows from China and from Taiwan. But this whole time period, and it's still going on, it is an exercise in problem solving, in ingenuity, in communication and collaboration. Communication, collaboration have been key. And I think the other thing that's been really important, and Margaret and I talk to each other virtually every day, but it is to have a support system, professional and personal support system, to just bounce off the ideas of everything that's going on. I was just talking to a colleague in New York who is at her wit's end because she just feels so alone in the immensity of the decisions that we're all having to make, how to move forward. And Margaret and I have been really talking a lot about, we have to restart this touring engine, this international touring engine. And the only way to do it is to share the pain between the company, the agent manager, and the presenter. No one part of this can take the whole loss. We have to collaborate. So we have worked together on, on fees that we could live with. We're only at 30% capacity of a theater right now in our venues. So hence that affects what, our earning potential and what we can do with contracts. And so it's all been a communication, and then just managing the safety protocols between artists. David Parsons, one of Margaret's company, I think has done it extremely well. working in a bubble, and we had to continue that bubble when we brought them in November. We were, I think, the only dance presenter in the country
It
to
did
do
a show. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think so.
and so it was a lot of communication. There's no stupid questions. That you can't over communicate, and it was just a lot of sharing. But you know, I'm a nonprofit, so I'm able to raise money, which has been that's a whole other story. But Margaret is running a business, and she's got a very different perspective to it.
Yeah, I mean, we can't raise not-for-profit funds. We're a regular company. So, you know, a lot of people have done a lot of different things. A lot of people furloughed. Some of the big agencies furloughed a lot of people, and they're on 50% salary. I've been able to, fortunately, pay my employees the whole time and kept my office, which a lot of people have not. You know, we've gotten some grants. So far we've gotten 3 different kinds of grants that were open to regular businesses, and we're waiting for 2 more. And we're at our wit's end right at the moment, but it is a constant worry about money. And then I have all the dance companies. They're not for profit, so they can raise some money and they can do some things, but I'm worried about them. So it's really been taxing to my staff. It's been taxing to me. You know, we're going to do our best to get through it, but it has been a super challenge, and I don't wish it on anyone. It's very difficult.
I think I have 6 versions of my upcoming budget that have to be developed because of grant deadlines, and you have to, you know, you have to build a budget. You have to be able to project earned revenue and everything. And it's, you know, I've got budgets built at 30%, at 40%, at 50%, at 100% potential. But, you know, if we're at 100% potential in the fall, but we think that we're only going to get 50% of the people who normally come, you know, as they reacclimate to joining, you know, public spaces, it's just been daunting.
And we had to do a budget of how we're going to spend this grant money.
Yeah.
So it's like, and that just came in last Monday. And so we're like, oh my, and then they were telling us we have to spend it by December 21, but I just heard they moved that. Charles, did you hear that?
Yes, I did today.
I just heard it like a half hour ago. So I'm happy about that, because I couldn't imagine how we'd spend it that quickly.
Just so I can just toss this in there, SVOG, the Shuttered Venues Operators Grant, I think is what it is, from the SBA, is a very important grant that a lot of us are applying for. We will all be up at midnight between the 7th and the 8th, because the portal opens at 8 on the 8th, and they haven't given us a time, so everyone's assuming it's midnight. I guarantee you there'll be thousands of arts organizations and companies like Margaret's, and we will all be entering at 12:01 a.m. on the 8th. So we're all preparing all our documents. There's a lot of them.
And really, to get through COVID, it's about relationships.
Yeah.
So, you know, you have to have relationships with your landlord to ask for a reduced rent. You have to have it. You have to have a relationship with your accountant and see if they'll take less because we're not earning. And, you know, there's all this negotiation. So learning negotiation is also a very important skill for any dancer, any choreographer, anybody who wants to be in the field. Negotiation you use it in everyday your life, not just in the art.
Great. Well, thank you so much for sharing your insights on that. We have some questions, great questions that are coming in from our viewers. So I will start at the top. What advice would you give recent graduates who now need to create their own performance opportunities due to the COVID closures of theater and dance companies?
That's a tough one. I will say this, I'm not a huge fan of it, but the virtual realm has really filled the void this past year. For me, the virtual realm is here to stay, and I'm interested in creating, as a presenter, process stories that I talk to one of Margaret's artists, and we talk about the creation of a work, and we show a snippet of the work, and we say, come see it in the theater. There are a lot of people like Ailey and Bruce Wood here in Dallas, a lot of companies that are doing a lot of performance work on the virtual realm, teaching master classes on the virtual realm, creating this kind of work. I have found, in my opinion, the most successful parts of those works are the ones that are made for the camera, for the virtual realm, as opposed to, you know, having a camera shooting a pristine performance and just putting that out there. I just get really bored with them. They're flat and very two-dimensional, where a lot of people are making works that are, you know, site specific, or they have some interesting editing that makes it unique to the virtual realm. And those have been successful, and people have found ways, you know, there are a lot of ways to monetize it. You do have to be very careful about music rights and what platform are you using. If you're, you know, if you're using Facebook or YouTube, they have very specific algorithms that will shut you down if you don't have the proper sync rights set up for the music. Vimeo is a little bit more forgiving, but you still have to have them. Right now, I honestly, and I give this to Margaret because she's gonna talk about this. The field's about to be super saturated. Everybody is trying to get back into the field. Everyone that is normally touring, all the big companies, everybody's been shut down. We're like, my whole next season that I'm going to announce in June, every bit of it, except for, with one exception, is a reschedule from the 2 years before. There's nothing that, none of the new things that I wanted to do are coming in. So the next 2 years for most of us that present dance are going to be rescheduling things that got postponed, sort of living up to the commitments that we had already made. You know, innovation will help you as things start opening up. You can find places that lobbies, a lot of places that have public spaces that you can sort of, you know, work to use it as a performance space could be a way. But Margaret?
Streaming is an unsustainable use of the art. It does not pay the artist. It doesn't pay the presenter. It's the audiences are totally burned out. They've been totally overwhelmed. I can't even watch anything streamed. I mean, there's so much out there. And here's what happens with streaming. What happens with streaming, if you give them your artwork, it doesn't limit it to that territory. Once it's on the internet, it's everywhere. Yep. So you can't sell it again. So I really, you know, graduates, listen to me. I want you to listen to me. Get a job with a dance company or a theater company. But if you try to put your shingle out, you're really going to be disappointed and frustrated. Mm-hmm. There isn't any bandwidth for all of this. And you need to learn some more things about being in an actual company before you try to have one.
And this is a unique time. This is no judgment on anyone's ability or talent. It's just, we're coming out of 2 years of, really 2 years, but it's a year and a half of being shut down. And well, everything, you know, it's a unique time to be entering the field, a very difficult time.
You know, Jessica Lange made 80 ballets on other people before she decided to have a dance company.
Yeah.
And she pretty much knew how to do it. And she decided at the end that it was too grueling and she'd rather choreograph on big ballet companies. She's doing some work on ABT. She just did Pacific Northwest Ballet. She's got some other things in the pipeline. But I am, you know, before you try to set up your own company, please, please, please be in one that already exists.
Thank you. So our next question is, what additional academic coursework would you encourage dance students to study while at Point Park?
How to build a budget. Basics of marketing. Mm-hmm. You know, the marketing field is changing, but you need to know how to build a budget and a timeline. I build budgets from the show backwards. You know, as I'm sort of figuring out a marketing timeline, the curtain's going to be on this date, so we need to have ticket sales go on this date, and so if we're going to have ticket sales going on a month out, then we need to have the marketing done a month before that, and you know, then you start building your budget. But you need to learn how to build a budget, very basics of Excel or whatever you use, But I don't think and maybe Point Park does this better, certainly than when I was in school, but we don't teach artists in any field the business of being an artist enough.
It's about supply and demand.
Yeah.
There's too much supply and there isn't much demand. And if we keep up with this streaming, there will be no demand. So really think about it.
I'd also suggest when you're in college is a really good time to try to get some internships with companies, with professionals. If you can afford to have an unpaid internship, there's more opportunities for you. I asked a friend of mine about who used to run the Ravinia Festival, people who have a master's degree in arts administration, what kind of weight he gave that. And he said he really is interested. He looks at them differently, but he's also very interested in people that actually spend time working in the field and actually learn outside of the theoretical or book learning, but actually get in the field and learn something. It's a very powerful learning tool. And so while you're in college and you've got, hopefully some financial support helping you, it's a really good time to clock some intern hours in a company. And
don't think that no matter what the job is, if it's at a place that you're interested in, it can be, look, when I started off and they asked me to Xerox something on the copy machine, I read it. You know what I mean? Like I used every chance to learn something, and you can learn something in any job you're at. And it'd be great for people to get to, be at a theater or work at an arts organization.
I love what you're both saying about that, because it seems like in your career journeys that embracing that opportunity to learn, to keep going and growing and networking and just bringing in as much knowledge as you could along each step of the way really helped to get you where you are today.
Chris, I just noticed this anonymous question about any tips or specific ways of finding auditions for dancers, contemporary dance companies, or gigs for choreographers. I'm terrible at researching. Point Park has a lot of, I always say this here in Dallas, because when we bring a dance company, we always have a masterclass with, David Parsons or someone, Robert Battle from Ailey or whomever. Why you would skip an opportunity to take a masterclass with people with whom you might want to dance and be in a room with, 20 to 40 people, as opposed to a catacall of 300 dancers, is beyond me. And I say this to the universities here in Dallas and North Texas: when these students don't show up, it's ridiculous. I can name 5 people that got into a company based on getting seen in a masterclass. So these opportunities that you can get at the universities, do not pass them up, because
exactly.
It's just ridiculous. Then you don't belong in the field if you can't get out of bed on a Saturday morning to take a masterclass.
You have to be hungry for it.
Yeah.
Great points. Thank you. Next question is regarding the saturation of the market. You both spoke about that. What advice would you give new dancers who will find themselves at auditions with seasoned professionals?
Do your best. You don't always know what someone's looking for.
Exactly. There
are so many companies that are they're replacing a specific body type that may have left the company. Ailey has done this a lot, where someone who was a shorter dancer or a taller dancer, or Bill T. Jones wants a heavier person because he's had a lot of differently built dance companies. You never know what they're looking for, so don't sell yourself short. Do your best. Doug, and every company is looking at something different. Doug Barone has a much more organic, earthy sort of, he embraces human movement, pedestrian movement in his work. He's looking for dancers that can do this kind of work. I think a lot of dance companies, dancers, choreographers are looking for thinking dancers who can, who they'll give a command. A lot of improv seems to be in the choreographic process these days. Crystal Pipe does a lot of that, where she's really presents the dancers with a question, a problem to solve, and she's interested in how they resolve that movement problem. and builds a piece like that.
If you ever get a chance to do a Momix audition, you should do it. It's unlike any audition. It's unbelievable, and it's so much fun. And what they're looking for is very, very different. And those dancers will go around the world. You'll travel a lot. So it's a great company to be a part of.
You know, this question about elaborating on the finding auditions for dancers in the professional world. I mean, Margaret may know better. I would say you can reach out to companies that you're interested in.
Absolutely.
And send them a video and, you know, your CV. You can, you know, go onto their websites and see what's going on, see if there's open classes, if they're doing a summer institute. Complexions does a lot of summer institutes, and they've taken a lot of dancers from those summer institutes. But you need to just go and, you know, if there's a company that you're interested in, you need to pursue them. They're not going to come looking for you. So you need to pursue them. This is a weird time where there's a lot of stuff because of COVID. A lot of people are looking at dancers via video, and more so than in the past. And you know, there's pluses and minuses to it. It makes you able to audition for a company without having to spend the money to go to a physical audition. I don't know how long it'll last, but this is the time to do that. And reach out to the, and there's right now, because of COVID, there's a lot of changes happening in the field. Companies are closing their doors. You know, that we've only seen a couple so far, but at the same time, companies that are staying open have lost a lot of dancers. People, particularly in the contemporary world, a lot of dancers have decided, you know, I'm going to go back to graduate school. I know one guy that decided to become a cop. You know, lots of stuff happening. And so openings are developing in companies, and you just have to research them, reach out to them and say, hey, I'd really be interested in your company. I'd love to audition for you. Could you, you know, give me some guidance? And they'll respond. But I would do that with sending a little clip, an audition clip.
Okay, great. Thank you. Our next question is, many dancers join cruise lines right out of school. Do you have an opinion about this career choice?
You'll make money.
I hope you don't get COVID.
Yeah.
Get vaccinated.
Take some Pepto-Bismol with you. I know a lot of people that have done the cruise lines from the dance world and from the Broadway world. A friend of mine that was a star in Phantom made a ton of money because you were paid on international waters. And so he made a bunch of money. He didn't, you know, he was technically on the poverty line here in the States, but he was making, I don't know, $4,000 or $5,000 a week cruising around. Now, it's not that way for most dancers because you're going to be in a tiny cabin somewhere. It can be really hard. You're at sea. You're not going to have a great, you know, you're not going to have a stateroom. But it's a lot of people have made, you know, good livings doing that and have moved on and made connections.
Sometimes they have you teach yoga and do some other kinds of stuff. Yeah. They want you to dance with the people at dinner, blah, blah.
Yeah. You got to do all that. I mean, it's a choice. It's like doing Disney. You want to go, you know, you can make some money doing the amusement parks. You can travel internationally with them. You can see the world with these things. You know, it's an option.
Mm-hmm. How does something like that, how is that viewed on a resume?
You know, what do you think, Margaret?
Well, I think, you know, right now, being ingenious and finding somewhere to work, no one's going to say anything. They're going to be good for you. You got yourself paid. Amazing. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, I think it's better to take a job on the cruise line than sit at home. You know, if you're not getting other work, I mean, I don't think it's going to destroy you. You try it.
Yeah, I think.
Get vaccinated and try it.
If you can send an audition tape along with a resume, they're going to look at it and they go, oh, they did a cruise ship. And then they're going to look at the video and go, okay, this is a skilled dancer. And they took a job. That's, you know, no one's going to think ill of it, especially if you've got a good audition tape.
I mean, the other idea that you might want to look at is some regional theater, you know, some of the regional theater and the non-union theater that goes out. I mean, it's killer. I had 3 dancers from Momix went and did the Moving Out tour. the non-union moving out tour. And I cannot tell you that, I mean, that show was impossible to dance anyway, it's so difficult. And then, you know, they got on the truck and blah, blah, blah. I mean, it was, but, you know, they did it. So.
And there are a lot of people that go to the other side of the commercial field. You know, the music, the West Coast, the music videos, they're much harder to get into, but there is that whole realm. I don't have a lot of connection in that field. But you know, that's a big part of the business. What was this about? Thinking? You mentioned improvisation.
Yes. You mentioned improvisational skills as well as thinking dancers. What else is required of a well-rounded or versatile dancer?
What do you think, Margaret?
Well, you have to be, you have to look the part. You have to look the part. It's, you know.
You know what Margaret said about get into a company is important. Not everyone fits into a company. And for a company to be successful, of course, you want really great dancers, but they have to be able to work together. They have to connect and make an ensemble, you know, where you feel each other's movement. And that's important, you know. So I think checking your personal baggage at the door as much as you can is really important. You have to be able to get along. I know I can name a lot of great dancers that have just been kicked out because they were just too difficult to work with. I won't work with an artist that's really difficult because there's just too many people that want to work to put up with it. Yes. So there, you know, I will usually, and in rare occasions I'll put up with it, but for the most part, I'm a pretty straight shooter, and I don't do that. But I think, you know, you got to learn how to work with people. You need to be. Margaret has said this a few times, you have to be on time. It is so insulting to be late. And it just means you don't value the other person's time. And that is really insulting to choreographers in general. But, you know, you've got to be a respectful artist.
Early. Yeah. I mean, look, I did not study filmmaking in college, and I ended up producing and directing at Dance American Great Performance and won Emmys and Peabodys. How did I learn that without going back to school? Because the first job I got in television, they had morning editors and evening editors, and they had eight editors and 4 associate producers, and those associate producers wouldn't stay and help the evening editors, and I did. And I learned so much.
You have to persevere.
I learned so much that when that job was done, somebody on that show got me to the Thanksgiving Day parade. And I was the control room PA, 32 cameras, dealing with all of that. But it's a word of mouth thing. Come early, stay late, work your butt off. You got to do it. If you want to have, you know, get the relationships and get the opportunities. Nobody wants a 9-to-5er.
And you gotta know that there's gonna be a lot of no's. You know, a friend of mine took her 10 times to get into over 10 auditions over the course of, I think, 6-7 years to get into Paul Taylor, and then she was with the company for years. It's, you know, it's a tough industry. That's why I keep saying there can be great success outside of New York. You can, you know, if you want to do that, that's fantastic companies based in New York. But you can have a rich life in other parts of this country.
Well, take a regional company that's good and learn from them.
Absolutely.
And then, yeah, I mean, I think your best bet is to try to let someone else pay you and not try to be your own producer.
But, you know, there are so many careers in dance outside. I enjoy what I do now as much, if not more, than I did when I was on stage. I think that part of my ego is satiated by speaking and doing engagements, but the challenges of running a business and curating a season and picking the dance companies that I think are going to be interesting and still be challenging. And, you know, like I'm starting a new series that we were going to launch last year that we're launching this year. It's called Titus. We're now called Titus Dance Unbound. And we started a new series called Titus Unfiltered with the tagline, "If you're easily offended, don't come." Because Dallas has to grow up, and there's such great art out there, and some of it may have nudity or might have a language or a theme that's going to offend someone it's going to offend somebody for whatever reason. And so but other people should have the opportunity to see that work. So we're building this series for more experimental works that might offend someone, but I don't want to force a subscriber to buy a ticket to something that they may object to. So we're going to, we're building this new series, and I love the ability to say, we're going to make a new series, and this is what we're going to do, and here's what we're going to put in it, and then you make it happen, and then you watch how audiences react to it. And at my gala, I always laugh when there's a big round of applause. It always makes me laugh. Okay, well, that worked. That was a good idea. So there's a lot to gain from all parts of the business.
Okay, great. So this question is for both of you. How can artists right now best differentiate themselves?
Margaret?
Well, that's a hard question.
That's a hard question.
I think what you have to do is you have to do some soul searching about what's unique to you. And, it could be how you describe the combination of styles that you like to do, or, add some, all the other skills that you have. Can you sing? Can you read music? Can you, what else can you offer them? Can you, I think one guy for the Momix thing has the license to drive a truck, and he put it on there, and boy, everyone's like, oh, we should take him, so I think what you have to do, and I think if you talk about how if you like to teach, or, what else can you offer them besides just dancing? What else can you do? And I think, do you roller skate? Can you do something on rollerblades? Like Momix, those are all the kinds of things they're looking for. So I just think it's all unique, like your thumbprint. It's like, try to help define yourself in a unique way, instead of a boring resume where, they just throw them out and this and that. I mean, I think how you present yourself to people really matters. And I think there's a big disadvantage to young people now with how everything is done. People don't meet people, and they just send something in, and then it's just like you never hear. I think that's just cruel. But
yeah, I think be the best version of yourself. Sometimes it's not about trying to be unique. It's just about being the best version of yourself. There's a friend of ours that I've watched grow up, and when she was at this Arts Magnet, I didn't think she'd have any future because she was a lazy dancer. She didn't have the best legs. She, didn't have the best turnout. She had a beautiful back and beautiful arms. And then in college, she woke up, and she's an incredible mover in a great company. She's found her niche. And she went to lots of auditions for a lot of companies and didn't find her niche, but now she has sort of come into her own and has really found this, the power of her performance. And it isn't that she could do all the ballet tricks or whatnot. She didn't have that, but she had something, she found what she was really beautiful at, and she has really become very successful. And she's developed a career in teaching yoga, and she's getting older. She's gotten a real estate license just in case she decides to do that. She's found these things, but there's something clicked in college where she woke up and started taking it seriously. Someone that, had a very privileged upbringing, and I just felt like she was lazy, and they're good friends of mine, but she really woke up in college and she became a really beautiful artist.
Thank you. So can you each share one of the most memorable moments of your career, whether it be something funny, a challenge, a lesson learned? Just when you think out over the course of your career, what's one defining moment that stands out for each of you?
I don't know
my God. Only one?
There's a lot of moments. I'll tell you two quick weird stories.
Mm-hmm.
The last artist we presented at the World Trade Center before everything happened was on a Saturday night with Twyla Tharp, and Twyla was there shooting, and we had 4,000 people. It was a beautiful performance, and Twyla was doing the Q&A herself, moderating herself at intermission, and she's this one guy, and I'm running around taking pictures, and I was coming from the backstage to the front of house, and this guy asked you know, Twyla, why is Santos Street so hokey? And I thought, oh my God, she's going to shoot him dead, you know, because Twyla doesn't play. And she was answering him very well. And I'm running around the front to take a picture. And as I was coming around, there was this guy on the edge of the stage, stage right, that was, but, you know, in the audience praying. And it was so strange because, you know, we have people on the plaza all the time, but it was, I mean, literally on the edge of the stage. And I asked security to move him and turned around and I took a picture of him. And then I went about my evening. And then that was Saturday night. Sunday, we were dark. Monday, we got rained out, which would have been David Gordon. And Tuesday would have been David Parsons, which was 9/11. And so, you know, everything happened. We all got out. And about Thursday, I get a call from a dancer friend who'd gone, one was seeing if I was okay. And, you know, and he'd gone to David Gordon on Monday that would rain and said, hey, Charles, the weirdest thing, there was a guy at the edge of the stage praying on Monday night, the night before 9/11. And we realized he wasn't facing Mecca. He was praying to the towers, which meant that there were people there that knew, it meant potentially that people knew on the ground. And so we had to go through this whole thing with the FBI to try to find the photographs that we had taken, but, you know, they all got destroyed. We never were able to retrieve all the images, but it was a very creepy thing to know that in our midst, there might have been people on the ground that knew. And we chose, when I told Liz Thompson about it, my boss, we opted not to tell the staff until much later that this was going on while we were there. Yeah, and there's funny stories, but that's one. Margaret?
Wow.
You know, the thing that brings me joy in my work is I absolutely love my roster. And
best roster in the business.
It has been such a pleasure to work with the artistic directors and help them make their dreams happen, and to watch dancers in the company grow. They start out one way and the way they blossom into what they blossom. And I love going to see them perform. And I've seen some of these people a gazillion times. I've seen the same show maybe a gazillion times, and I want to see it a gazillion more. And I always look forward to that. And for me now, it's the joy of watching the audience enjoy what's on stage, and to know that I helped make that happen really makes me feel so proud and happy to help this business. And I just love my artists and my staff. They're amazing too. So that's my joy.
Said. Beautifully said. Thank you, Margaret. Charles, what's your joy?
That an idea works. I brought Shen Wei, one of Margaret's artists, a while back, and with a piece called Near the Terrace, with this giant staircase that went across the whole upper stage wall. And Shen Wei sent me this, it was a lot of work. He's an incredible artist, but he's a lot of work. And we went through this whole, it was a lot of work to make this show happen. I had to play good cop and bad cop. And anyway, we had a packed house at the Opera House. And this has to be, people can look up videos of Near the Terrace, Shen Wei, not Shen Yung, Shen Wei, to see a snippet of this extraordinary work. And the piece ends and these dancers are melting, down the stairs, coming in. And there was dead silence in the hall, absolute dead silence in the hall. Everyone was so inside the work. And then it was an immediate standing ovation. And I was so happy, it brought me to tears that, this was a great moment of art for our city. Probably the top 2 or 3 most beautiful productions ever produced in the Opera House. It was stunning. And that makes me happy. And I think the other biggest thing that I've done that has made, I did a big project, too long of a story, but I think it was a big AIDS benefit called A Gathering here in Dallas. I did it in 2011 and 2013, and it was a ton of work, but it was so moving. And there were 250 performers who all contributed to make it happen at the Opera House. And I think it's the best work I've ever produced. And it was so emotional and so much fun and so moving. And it was, to have a part of bringing a community together to make a message was, it's what it's all about.
Mhm. Thank you so much. We have just a few minutes left with you both, and thank you for all of the really incredible insights and stories and guidance that you've shared. Do you have any final thoughts that you would like to give our attendees today?
Yes. Do not let rejection ruin you. Let it roll off your back. If you want to do it, you keep focused and you can do it. You know, when I think about all the things I've done in my career, and so many times something has tried to make it not happen, you've got to learn to accept rejection.
Yeah.
Learn how to accept it, and and then figure out another way. It's not going to, the problem is we grow up, we go from middle school and high school and college, and we think the next thing is just going to be there. No, the next thing now is about your entrepreneurship, your drive, your energy, your work. You're going to have to, and we're just coming out of COVID, so you guys have got a lot to think about. But there's all kinds of opportunities, and you have to find them and work to get them, and not let rejection stop you in your tracks. That's my advice.
I'd
Thank you
say
so much.
everything that Margaret said, and I'd also say don't be afraid of risk. In my job, you can present the things that will make money and everybody will come, or you can take a little risk and know I'm going to offend some people with this show, but it's such great art. I'll make it up somewhere else. So on my side of the business, I have a real commitment to risk. And it's a balancing act in the season to, you can't take too much risk. You don't want to scare everybody off, but embrace risk, embrace taking an idea to its fruition and seeing what happens. If you fail, you fail and you start over, but embrace risk.
Such great pieces of advice. Well, we want to thank you both so much for being with us today, sharing all of your great thoughts and experiences with us, some really incredible takeaways. And thank you so much to our viewers out there in Zoom land. We appreciate all of your really great questions and wish the best to you all. So thank you again and be well.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Of course. Take care.
Okay.